Hey there guys, what's going on? Welcome back to 5-9. It's Gearbox here, and today we're going to be covering the first day of the E3 press conferences. Obviously, today we had Ubisoft and Gearbox introducing their latest games and latest information on the games they have already announced as well. If you guys want to see more of this, leave a like, of course, subscribe for more content on the general gaming side of things. Of course, we're going to be covering the rest of E3, so stay tuned for that. But today, with me to cover the first day of E3, we have Adam. Say hello.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Perfect. So before we get in, let's just quickly go over your thoughts on the first day of E3. How did you feel about day one?
I thought it was fairly light in terms of actual releases and new stuff. I was expecting to see a little bit more out of Ubisoft, but we still got some interesting games, so I'm excited.
Yeah, definitely agree. We got some surprises as well in there, I'm not gonna lie, specifically one game, but let's get right into it, shall we? So first and foremost, we already know that they were bringing out a new game, now recently changed to Rainbow Six Extraction. I was gonna say the other name, but they've changed it from Rainbow Six Quarantine to Rainbow Six Extraction. It's basically, in my opinion, from what it looks like, Resident Evil 5 and 6, but with aliens and in space. It's basically what it seems like it's gonna be effectively, it's 3v1 or 4 versus, not 1 per se, but it's like 3 versus aliens or 4 versus aliens, and it's basically a co-op experience. What do you think about this one, Adam? It looks very interesting, right?
Yeah, it looks very interesting. It looks like they're trying to kind of take the Rainbow Six Siege approach to like COD Zombies almost, with like varying degrees of levels of these Archaeans, I think is what they were called. But the actual gameplay itself that they went through, I was really curious to see how it would actually go if you were playing it with friends in real life, some like real co-op, because it wasn't exactly the most exciting intuitive showing of a game that I've seen, but it's one of those games where it looks like you might just have to get in there and play it, but it did look very interesting.
Yeah, I definitely do agree because there's obviously a difference, especially when it comes to like a zombies-esque or anything. There's gonna be a difference between you actually playing it and you watching it, right? So we'll have to wait and see on how it actually plays. Don't know if they're planning on doing an open beta or anything kind of like how they did the Division and stuff like that. So we'll have to see if they do something along those lines in the near future. We move into the next game, which I think both of us are very excited for, purely because it's something cool, something unique. And that's Riders Republic. It's basically extreme sports in an open world scenario. So you can effectively roam a huge park filled with like various biomes for bikes, gliders, snowboard, skaters. It basically reminds me of Steep, but in a much grander scale. What about you, Adam? How do you feel about this one?
Yeah, I mean, originally this game was way under the radar for me. I wasn't thinking anything of it when they first showed it, and when they released this like gameplay trailer today showing just like the snowboarding park, it reminded me so much of like the old SSX Tricky days where you'd be snowboarding with your buddies, and like all of the gameplay looked crazy. They had like jetpack races, all different kinds of stuff. It looked phenomenal, honestly.
Yeah, it's definitely very exciting. Like I said, it gets that Steep vibe from me, and that's a huge plus for me personally, because I was super interested in Steep when it first came out. Never managed to get around to playing it, but was very excited to see Riders Republic basically emulated, but on a much bigger scale, or with more variety sports, I suppose is the best way to put it. Of course, it's not another Ubisoft press conference without a Just Dance announcement. I mean, let's be honest, I'm not surprised. I don't think we need to add much to this. Adam, are you planning on picking up Just Dance 2022?
No, maybe for my wife, but they just seem to be showing off some exclusive songs, I suppose, with this version, and it is what it is.
All you content creators out there, by the way, be careful. Let's be careful on all the licensed songs, right? Apart from that, of course, we went back to Assassin's Creed Valhalla for some DLC. Of course, they're going to Paris, basically, black box missions and stuff like that, going back to the original Assassin's Creed formula. It's kind of cool. I personally haven't played Valhalla just yet, so I can't, add much of my own value to it. What about you, Adam? Have you managed to play a bit of Valhalla? Have you seen any content from it that makes you intrigued about potentially taking up the game and playing this DLC as well?
So I've seen some content about it, and they really spent a lot of time talking about how much people were loving Valhalla, and that's why they were trying to continue this story. They said it was going to be like, it's one of the biggest battles in Viking history, so it does seem really interesting. It looks like a blast to play.
I'm not too surprised that we didn't get a new announcement for Assassin's Creed. They've kind of stopped doing the yearly installments for Assassin's Creed. They're going back to like every 2 years effectively. So we'll probably get an announcement for a new Assassin's Creed next year, but this is at least good that they're at least supporting this game up until the new game comes out, of course. Finally, their big powerhouse, the big title of this year, of course, is Far Cry 6 from Ubisoft, right? This is where I'm gonna give it to Adam, because I unfortunately could not watch the trailer that they showed off. It was a lot of story-based effort from what I've heard and whatnot, because I was on a flight when the conference was going on. But yeah, Adam, what do you think about the trailer that they showed, and like how do you think of the feeling of the Far Cry game so far?
It's like a lot of Far Cries where there's a big emphasis on the villain. They really like their villains, and that seemed to be kind of the topic of discussion for this press conference in particular. The initial cinematic that they showed was just the more backstory on the main villain, and him essentially just coming up and meeting a bunch of these characters in a boat, just all ominous and kind of showing how evil he was. And then they also showed some new DLC that people can look forward to, and a remaster of the old Far Cry 3, I believe, Blood Dragon DLC, which was hugely popular way back when. But it seems like they're releasing more DLC with focus on the villain. So this press conference for them on the Far Cry side of things seemed to be really stressing the importance of villains in their series, which, are incredibly popular.
Yeah, I think, especially Far Cry 3's villain, Vaz. People love to rate him as one of the best video game villains of all time, right? So, yeah, I think they definitely pride in their villains. I don't know how good the 4th and 5th ones were. Personally, I haven't played 5 yet, but I know 4. 4 was okay for me. I wasn't like the biggest fan of him. He was good, but he wasn't anything like exceptional. I think it was also coming in from Vaz and Far Cry 3. It was kind of hard to accommodate to Far Cry 4's villain. But yeah, they definitely do pride in their villains, and I'm very, very excited to see what they do with it. Also, another thing they did announce was a season pass for the game, and you can play as them, as mentioned, so that's going to be good. I'm very interested to see how exactly we're going to be playing as like Vaz and stuff like that, right? It's going to be super, super cool. The second to last game that they announced was something that actually got leaked hours before the Ubisoft press conference by Nintendo on their eShop, and it was the new Mario and Rabbids game, the sequel to the original, of course, called Mario and Rabbids Sparks of Hope. It's coming in 2022. I haven't played the original, I'm not gonna lie. I've heard a lot of people rave about the original. I've heard a lot of people actually liked it, those who picked it up. It didn't really sell astonishingly, as far as I remember. At least I know it sold well, but nothing like to write home about kind of thing, right? It's going to be very interesting to see how well this one sells, especially considering the popularity and like the affection people had for the first one. But yeah, how do you feel about this one, Adam? I know we talked about this before the recording. You haven't played it either, but yeah, how do you feel about this? Will this kind of incentivize you to potentially pick up the original and this one?
Nintendo always likes to push the envelope and put Mario in places where he hasn't been before, right? And this is no exception. From what I understand, the original was a little bit more of like a tile-spaced, not RPG, but like a turn-based game, and this seems to be a little bit more freeform, and you can see Mario using like all different kinds of weapons, so it looks very interesting. It definitely looks a little bit more out of the box, but I'm definitely interested.
For sure, it's gonna be cool to see where they go with this, and it's kind of cool to see Nintendo and Ubisoft have this collaboration. The Rabbids franchise hasn't necessarily, had like its glory day, its glorious moment in terms of its a solo game or anything of that sort. So it's cool to see at least they're bringing it back with Mario being at the forefront as well. So definitely down for it. Looking forward to seeing how well it does next year. And then finally, this was the surprise to me. I didn't expect to see this, and I don't think anybody did, to be honest, is this was kind of rumored back in like 2016-17. I mean, it's been rumored for a very long time, especially since the original game came out with the movie, and that's Avatar. No, this is not the Avatar you think it is. It's the other one, the blue one. Yeah, we don't know much about it. We just got a CGI trailer, effectively showing the Na'vi doing the Na'vi things. I think that's what the blue creatures are called, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, it's just them doing them things, right? There's no information of if it's based on the original movie, if it's like taking place in between the movie and the sequel that's supposed to be coming out, or if it's a prequel or anything of that sort. But yeah, what do you think, Adam, about this one? Because I know, it's Avatar is one of those movies that everybody was like, it looks amazing, but nobody really cared about the story, let's be honest, right? So how do you feel about it being translated to a game?
Well, that's the thing, is like I don't really know how to feel about it, because
Yeah.
I mean it was a cinematic, experience, but people have been waiting for this game almost as long as they've been waiting for a second movie, right? And like, do I care as much about the actual story and like the lore of that area? I don't know, and I don't know what kind of game it would even create. Right, like, so I don't know, we're just gonna have to see and see what else they have for us.
I'd like to think going down maybe an action RPG kind of esque route would probably be the best way to do it. Have level skill trees and stuff like that. I think that's the best way to do it, but I don't know where they're gonna go in terms of story. Like you said, like it's so hard to think about where they're gonna go, right? Avatar has that same feeling the Black Widow movie does, where it's like, oh, you've waited this long, and it's like, I'm not as hyped anymore because you took so long, kind of thing, right? So
Absolutely.
yeah, it's unfortunate, but I mean, still, it's gonna be interesting to see how it does, what they do with the game, what genre it's gonna be. Super interesting in that regards, for sure. We then move on to Gearbox, who didn't do much, unfortunately. This was a bit of a shame because obviously Gearbox, known for their Borderlands games, people were expecting something. I know there was rumors about like some game called Wonderlands or something like that, or I don't remember, Homeland. I don't know what it was called, but I remember some rumor floating about in the last week, and of course that didn't come true because they didn't show anything. But the only big announcement, in my opinion personally, was that Godfall is coming to PS4, and along with that they're bringing out a DLC. Now, I personally haven't played Godfall. I obviously watched the trailer. It was last Video Game Awards, right? And I was very excited about it because it looked cool. It was a cool concept. It was kind of like what Anthem should have been. But yeah, I haven't personally played it, but have you played it, Adam, and what do you think about the announcement?
Yeah, so Godfall, it is almost Warframe-esque in how you play it, but the initial release, I recall there being a little bit of blowback. It wasn't really as well received as it was initially hoped for, but then they built upon it, and apparently now it's become a pretty great game. So it's very interesting to see that they released DLC for it, that they're having an expansion come out for it, and honestly the gameplay looked really solid, so I'm pretty excited for it.
Yeah, I think with live service games nowadays, and this is going on a bit of a tangent, I think live service games nowadays, we kind of have to expect, unfortunately, incomplete games. And that's not something we should, but it is something that's unfortunately a dreadful, what's the best word to say here? It's an unfortunate side effect of it being a live service game, is that we're probably going to get games that aren't like completely ready or like completely fleshed out or anything of that sort, right? So it's a shame. A couple of other games that they did talk about is effectively some slight indie, I wouldn't say indie-esque titles, that's kind of harsh to say, but other games basically. There's Tribes of Midgard that they talked about that's still going on. Homeworld 3 is in production, which is a real-time strategy game. And then Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, which is effectively a spin-off to the Borderlands games, right? So, cool games, but do you have any thoughts on them in particular?
So, I mean, they showed a lot of little background information about the Borderlands movie that's coming out, but as far as Tiny Tina's Wonderland, we didn't learn too much more than we had already learned previously about the game. They didn't show any extra additional gameplay. They just kind of talked about different enemy types like goblins and dragons. I'm not really sure if they're just going to go like full Borderlands with it and just have it be different, more magical. That would be really cool. Other than that, we didn't get too many more details in that regard. So yeah.
Yeah, I think the main focus for Gearbox, I mean, especially I think Gearbox in general, not just at the showcase, but in general, is that they're trying to focus on the Borderlands movie. They're trying to get this, working because, of course, video game movies, out of the last 10, I'd say only 2 have hit. Let's be honest. It's probably Detective Pikachu and Sonic the Hedgehog have kind of hit, right? The rest of them don't necessarily do extremely well. So I think they want to try and smack it out of the park with the Borderlands movie. So I think their entire focus is on that. But it's still a shame to see Gearbox, you usually expect something from them, either Borderlands related or something. This time around, seemed very tame. Seemed very tame. So day one as a whole, I have to agree with Adam at the start of the video. Very tame day one. Not much to go off on. Ubisoft was pretty much our our hope for something massive. And I guess, depending on how you look at it, the Avatar game was kind of massive, but obviously to us, and I think a lot of people, I'm gonna assume, not really the most hyped thing to, bring out, especially considering the movie's now, 12 years old. So, yeah, it's gonna be very interesting to see where it goes. I assume they'll probably release the game in and around with the second movie whenever that comes out, right? But yeah, any final thoughts before we want to wrap up, Adam?
Yeah, I'm really excited for Riders Republic. It looks fantastic, and there's a beta sign up now, so if you want to go check that out, feel free to go check that out. But I was kind of, at least going into this day, I was kind of expecting to hear some stuff about The Division from Ubisoft, because we know that they've got some other games coming on the horizon. That's one of their bigger games as well. And then I thought maybe Gearbox would drop some information about, aside from Tiny Tina's Wonderland in the movie, thought they might drop some information about like future Borderlands DLC, like stuff along those lines. So it was really kind of surprising. I don't know if they're saving that for, another showcase, but those are two things that I kind of thought that were going to be talked about and weren't. But overall, very interesting day. A lot of couple surprises, and that Riders Republic looks really great to me.
No, definitely, for sure. I think one thing I'll also note is that while we are we're approaching the end of the pandemic, companies are only just starting to operate in full function, right? So
Absolutely.
I wouldn't be surprised if this E3 press conference is just them setting up for like maybe something to showcase at Gamescom or something like that, right? Give it some time. We'll see you come back in August or September, whenever Gamescom is. I think that's at the end of August, start of September. So when Gamescom comes around, we'll probably see more there. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Adam and I are looking forward to the upcoming days as well. We'll probably be we'll obviously come back tomorrow evening with another wrap-up video for, Square Enix, Microsoft plus Bethesda. Who else is there? There's the PC gaming show, and there's one more that I'm not remembering off the top of my head. But there's 4 conferences to look forward to tomorrow. I'm super excited. Hopefully you guys are. Leave a like, subscribe for more content on the 5-9 channel, and we'll see you guys next time. Take it easy, everybody.